If you're trying to grow an online coaching company, you might feel like things are just all over the place and there's no rhyme or reason. Am I making progress or am I dying? My intention with this video is to give you a scorecard and teach you how to track some very, very basic metrics that you can track on a weekly basis. That's going to help you get a lot more clear picture of how's my business doing? Do I need to make changes or can I keep chugging along because things are going really well? Before we get into today's content, if you could smash that subscribe button, that would be awesome. That allows me to create more content like this for online coaches and clinicians that want to grow and scale online coaching companies. So what I'm going to be covering today is the purpose of using a scorecard. A scorecard is like it's like a scorecard, right? So if I'm going to go to a football game, the only way that I can tell if my team is winning is by looking at the scoreboard, right? I can see, the touchdowns. I can see the points the other team has. I can see the time remaining. I've got some data to say, this team is winning. If I didn't have that and I went to the bathroom and maybe I came back and I took a phone call, came back, I would have no idea what the score is, right? I would have no idea. People are playing, but I don't know what the score is. So that's what scorecards allow you to do, is it allows you to put a scoreboard up for your business and you're just tracking numbers. The numbers are going to change throughout the game, right? Your team could be winning and then they're starting to lose and then they win again and then they start losing. And but ultimately with the game of business, there's never really an end, right? The timer, the clock that we see in a sporting event doesn't really exist in business. At least it shouldn't. I mean, it can if you're like, oh, I'm exiting. But ideally, it's more of an infinite game. So with that, these data points are really helpful because they can allow us to correct themselves or kind of auto-regulate in a sense. Once we get either things are going too high, we got to slow down, or things are going really low. We need to do something to change this so that we can go back on that upward trajectory. So that's kind of the concept of what a scorecard is. And I'm going to go ahead and jump in my computer and continue on with this, and you'll get a clear picture of how we use it. Okay, so we're inside the computer now and I'm on my Google Sheets. So as you can see here, this is a very basic scorecard. And the reason I like this is that I've actually reduced the amount of numbers that are needed in a business, okay? Because there's so many numbers we could track in a business, right? But just like a scoreboard at a football game, I just need to know the score and the time for the most part, right? But, I could be like, oh, how many assists did he have? How many run plays were there? What was the total yardage? All those matter, but the real thing that matters at the end is the total score. So that's essentially what we're going to do here with our business scorecard is we're going to reduce the amount of things that we need and have them be minimal. Okay, so as you can see with this scorecard, what I've done here is I've broken the business, this is an online coaching business, into 3 components. There's a marketing component, there's a sales component, and then there's a coaching or fulfillment component. I could have more, but I strategically chose to have less. And as I've broken these out, I've created just three KPIs, which KPIs stands for key performance indicators that I want to track. Okay, 3 for each. You may have more, you may have less, but ideally you want to have as 3 to 5 per department. Each department could be tracking way more outside of this, but when it comes down to looking at the business, what are the 3 things that really matter? We set those up, and then you can see up here, we have the different weeks of the month. And then this scorecard is just month 1. So this could be, if it's March right now, this could be March scorecard, March 2023. Then I can duplicate the scorecard and have March, and then March, April, May, June, July, and it keeps continuing. And I can just have this scorecard as a reference to see, okay, when was business doing well? When was it not doing well? I have all the data as opposed to trying to look it up. It's all here. So how I help my clients, and this is what I do for myself, is identify what are the 3 things in marketing? What are the 3 things in sales? And what are the 3 things in fulfillment that I need to track to know how the business is doing? And if we can create something really similar to this for you, it makes the process a lot easier to know, how am I doing? For me and the businesses that I'm supporting, for a lot of the coaches, a lot of them are starting with just organic content. They're posting on Instagram, they're posting on Facebook, maybe on LinkedIn, Twitter, all those things, but really they're repurposing one post onto all platforms. I'm having them take an action, set a goal for that, or they're tracking the action taken as opposed to the result from the post, right? So this is more of a process goal, okay? And you can see over here too, I can set a target for each of these goals, and it allows me to just keep track and tabs of how am I doing relative to my goal. I can reset those goals every month. A lot of my coaching clients are doing social media posts. They're also doing Instagram stories. And then from there, they're having conversations with people who are engaging in their content, and they're connecting with new people, whether they met them locally, they're part of their community, or they went out and networked or found them on social media, right? But they're starting conversations with them. As far as marketing goes, these are the real three for this organic model that we're going to track. If this was paid advertising, I probably would put, number of leads, amount of money spent. So those are probably the two things that I might add to that. But overall, I want to keep it relatively small. In the sales compartment, there's three things we're tracking. Connection calls, which is like a triage call just to see if it's a good fit. Sales calls, which are calls at which where intention is to pitch our offer. New clients. And then in coaching, this is helping us with fulfillment, right? So this is letting us know how many total clients we have, what was the total collected revenue that hit the bank account that week, and what was the total contracted revenue, which is like new business to see, are we growing? Are we not growing, right? So these are the very, very simple metrics that I have my coaches start with. And again, they can add more, but if we have a scorecard and a template like this, as the business grows, we can start to make modifications to our plan, especially if some of these are process driven, right? So if I want to get, for example, if I want to get 5 new clients in a week, and let's say my close rate is 50%, which is really good. How many connection calls do I need? Well, it depends if your process is everyone has to do a connection call first or not. So I'm just going to skip this one for right now because it doesn't really apply. But then we are like, okay, how many conversations do I need to have to book 10 sales calls? Well, you're probably going to need at least, so I'd say, it depends on the person, but you're looking at typically like a 5 to 10% call booking rate from like a cold outbound message. If you know people, it's going to be a lot higher. But if this is a cold market, it's going to be a lot higher. So it's going to be anywhere from 100 to 500 conversations in a week to book 10 sales calls. Might be less, might be more, but that's kind of the target we have for that. So for us to generate 100 to 500 conversations, what does that look like? This is where cold messaging plays a role, right? For sure. And then also, how much engagement can our posts get? But for most people, it's like starting off with like, all right, we'll do 5 posts a week, days of stories. I want to do 5 days of me posting in stories. And then the conversations, there's different strategies we can do to find more people to have conversations with, and even send cold emails. Like there's lots of different strategies, but this is an organic only strategy. And again, for some of you guys, if they're engaging in your content, it might be a higher, you might only need 50 to 100. It really depends on how warm the audience is. With the post, that's why organic content is king, is that this could be a 20% call booking ratio, but for most of the time, like I said, if it's cold outbound, 5% is great. If it's cold email, you're looking at closer to 1%, 1 to 3%. Cold outbound, where it's conversational based, maybe 5 to 10%, just depending on how good you are at conversations and how good your offer is. All that's for another video. But yeah, I want to show you this because I just find it really valuable and useful. And this is how I run all the businesses that I coach and my own business. And I get really crystal clear on this. And the last thing I'll mention, you'll notice how there's 3 in here that are gold. North Star metrics, you're going to keep the most important indicators that you're tracking. And these are great because these are the only 3 that really matter, let's be honest, for this business at this time, right? So it's like number of conversations for people who are doing outreach and having all those types of conversations. That's leads, like that's total leads, right? And then number of sales calls is how many sales calls did we get? And then number of new clients is how many new clients did we get? Like these are the 3 that matter when you're typically growing a business, like getting started in like the under 50K a month range. Or you could do, conversation, sales calls, total, collected or contracted. You can pick your 3, but typically every quarter you pick 3. And that just are your main things to focus for that quarter. And if those things go up, the theory and hypothesis that your business should go up. This is a scorecard. This is why you'd use it. And I'm going to put a link in the description below with my scorecard with this exact one. So if this is a value, you want to use something like this and create it for your own business, go ahead and download it. It saved me so much time and energy to figuring out, am I growing? Where am I on track with things? All that. So thank you guys for watching, and go download and use this.